Students Who Design is a podcast and video series that bridges students and the design industry. By students, for students. Be sure to check out our website, studentswho.design.
This is Students Who Design. Today we'll be talking to Karen Lee, who studies cognitive science at UC Berkeley and previously worked at Facebook and Quora as a product design intern. This episode covers the product design internship recruiting process, managing a design consultancy, and so much more. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Students Who Design is sponsored in part by Facebook Design. For more resources and information about designing at Facebook, visit facebook.design and check out open roles at facebook.com/careers.
Hi Karen, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah.
How's your day today?
Long.
Okay. So you are a product designer. What is it that you actually do?
Yes, the eternal mystery. So I think product design is broken up into product thinking, UX design, and UI design, and kind of all of the gaps in between.
Mm-hmm.
So that's from a really high level, the three different things that I work on a daily basis, be it separately altogether. Sometimes, product designers code. That's not true at Facebook.
Do you code?
I prefer to not code, but
Okay.
I have been a product designer that codes,
Gotcha,
that debate
gotcha.
too. But yeah, I mean on a day-to-day basis, I'll be working on, mocks.
Mm-hmm.
I might be brainstorming.
So you live in Sketch.
I literally live in
Sketch.
Sketch. Yeah, I have 7 Sketch files open at once, I'm looking at all kinds of different things. Surprisingly do a lot of writing, a lot of
Documentation.
Either in Quip or just by hand, just kind of sitting at my desk thinking, staring at what I just wrote. I feel a lot of it is kind of just brute force of I need to have something from my brain that I can put on the screen, in the visuals and in the problem solving. So yeah, I feel every day is different, just depending on where I am in a project, what I'm doing, and I'm sure everyone who's a product designer feels the same way. But
and how did you get there?
To being product designer?
Yeah, so from when you were born to now.
Yeah. Whoa. Okay. I do have the story.
Okay. Yeah.
So unlike most people, I knew I wanted to design before going into college.
Okay.
And
you go to Berkeley?
Yeah, I go to Berkeley. So in high school, I got kind of into graphic design, just doing publicity type things, marketing things for different organizations on campus.
Mm-hmm.
I was in student government, so I did a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it was okay, I like graphic design, and I kind of like this thinking about how to I solve problems. But I was okay, I am not a great artist, and I'm not planning on going to design school.
Yeah.
So I can't do this as a career path. I went to college. When I applied to college, I was I'll just be biology. Whatever.
Gross.
Just back up biology. But when it came time to actually start at Berkeley, I was I'm not doing biology at Berkeley.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's too much. So I was trying to switch my major, and I saw this thing that was cognitive science. I was what is this? I've never heard of it.
Okay.
And did some more research into it. Turns out it's psychology, linguistics, computer science, sociology, neuroscience, a whole bunch of different things that were a lot of things I was interested in, and I didn't know you could study them all at once.
Yeah.
And I was looking through the projected career paths for cognitive science majors, and one of them was UI/UX designer.
Okay.
And I was oh, that sounds cool.
So you're
I was
major in this.
hey, that might be something I want to do because it's design, but I can do it with my degree at school.
And you get paid to do this.
You get paid to do it, and this is back when no one really knew what UI/UX was, but it was a trending buzzword.
Yeah.
So I looked into it. I was oh, okay, and I kind of just didn't know what I was doing freshman year. Just was looking for a UI/UX internship, and I got lucky that a company was doing their first internship program ever, and they were having design interns, and I had barely even a graphic design portfolio. I didn't even have a website, and they were
You didn't have a website?
I didn't even have a website. They just were we'll interview you. I was okay.
So what
and
did you show?
They interviewed me, and they just kind of asked me questions. And then, like, on the spot, they, like, looked at each other and were like, so do you want her to be our intern?
In
I
front
was
of
so
you?
weirded out. They're like, do you want her to be our intern? And the other guy was like, sure. And then I was
Then
like,
now-
that was
now
how
you
I
are a
spent my
UI UX
summer.
designer, yeah.
I spent my summer doing UI UX. And then I was like, okay, this is not as much ownership of a project that I want to have. Like, I want to think about, like, the strategy behind things, you know, why we're doing something, not just, you know, how does it look and how does it feel when you use it, but, you know, like, how do we solve the problem in the best way? I want it to be there to solve the problem, not to build the solution.
So how did you do that if these people are like, this is your project?
Yeah, well,
You're here for 2 months.
So that was something I figured out at the end of my internship,
Okay.
right? It was like, that was like an evolution. I iterated
On
my
yourself.
career path.
You designed yourself.
I designing my life. That's
Yeah.
actually a class you can take that you used to be able to take at Stanford or something. But basically that. So my next summer I was like, okay, I found out about product design. I was like, okay, I want to do product design.
Yeah.
And I kind of just like read articles. You know, I just learned it myself from like going on the internet. Built up my portfolio, finally got a website, applied to a bunch of companies, got really lucky that I scored an interview at Quora, went through like all of their crazy steps, and ended up working there. And that was like a really, really great experience. I like so much recommend that experience to everyone, and I think I learned a ton, and that was where I had to code as a designer.
What did you code in?
It was basically there are no front-end developers, so designers do all of the product design and the front-end.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds really crazy, and it's like a 60-40 coding to designing ratio.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so, like, the downside is that you spend all this time coding when you could be designing, but after coming to Facebook, where I was, like, specifically, I want a role where I'm not coding, I realize now that, like, being able to code as a designer helps you get moving so quick that you can launch an entire product on your own. Like, you barely need support from back-end engineers. You barely need support from other people. You can do it all yourself, and it happens like you have an idea on Monday, it could be in production on Friday.
Right.
Yeah. So there's like that trade-off, right? But like here, I can spend all of my time thinking about design. I can spend all of my time like perfecting what I'm doing. So there's like that trade-off. But yeah, so now I'm here. You know, I wanted to do an internship that was at a place where I thought I could grow a lot. And challenge myself, and the ads team at Facebook seemed like the place to be.
So now you're here.
Now I'm here.
Cool. So I want to touch on your involvement in school. So you served as the president of Berkeley Innovation. So could you tell us more about this organization?
Yeah, so Berkeley Innovation is pretty unique, I think, in what it is. It's a human-centered design consultancy, student-run.
Okay.
So it's a campus organization, but we do consulting with outside startups or, you know, big corporations.
So you pitch your club to companies?
Sort of, yeah. So we, there's like kind of, a lot of companies know about us already.
Okay.
We kind of alert startup accelerators that like, hey, you know, we're going into our fall.
And do they pay you? Or
Yes.
is Berkeley cool with that? Oh. Or
They,
does Berkeley
they do pay
know
us.
that?
I think so.
Okay.
Like, I assume so. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
a lot of clubs do this. It's very
Okay.
common. So a lot of consulting organizations at Berkeley get paid. We actually get paid on the lower end because, like, it's just the nature of how much impact we can have.
As like an external.
consultancy
Yeah,
is
yeah.
way less than with, like, business strategy. So we get paid a lot less. The other organizations get paid, like, in the tens of thousands. We're
Wow.
significantly less.
So if you're, let's say you're like a startup out of Boston.
Yeah.
And how would you pitch to them? Like, how would you pitch to, like, so let's say a startup trying to do something in the daycare space in Boston?
Yeah. So it used to be my job to kind of like try and convince
So
you know, these startups to come and like do projects with us. But really, it was just like I'd send cold emails, or I'd have like a contact at a company,
Okay.
or you know, I'd know someone, right? And I'd send an email and be like, hey, you know, I'm in this organization. We do this. We follow human-centered design. This is what
buzzword.
This is what human-centered design is.
What is human-centered design?
It is
Like in 2 sentences.
In two
This Boston startup was like, why do we
Yeah.
need human-centered design?
It's a design philosophy that was popularized by IDEO. Essentially, it's like a process that essentially is the foundation of I guess, UI UX and the practices that the tech industry primarily follows. So doing need finding, doing user research, doing iteration, more user testing, more iteration, more user testing, more iteration, going back and forth until you get this good solution, and then launching that. But still, after launch, circling back, making more iterations. So it seems intuitive now, but back in the day when this was first popularized, it was kind of like, a crazy idea to test it with the user,
to test it with the people that buy your stuff.
Right, yeah. So we call it human-centered design, and it's not a term that a lot of people know, but
And how did you get taken seriously, like as students?
Yeah, so we have our own portfolio as an organization. We use our Behance for that, because, I guess that's like a social platform. It's easier for people to find us. And every semester, once we're done with our projects, we'll put up a portfolio piece detailing what we did. And companies tend to be pretty impressed just with the quality of the work that comes out of it. And people will see our portfolio and be like, oh shoot, we should work with them, or people will know people in the organization. It takes a lot of work for us to build trust, but
once you have the portfolio of companies with that initial work, it's much easier.
Yeah, we have some big names, we have some trending names in our portfolio, and that kind of draws people in, we're trustworthy, we know what we're doing. We also talk about where our members have worked in the past, where they will work.
So it gives you credibility.
Right. We do a lot of things to build credibility.
And so there's the consulting part to this organization, and there's a class as well.
Yeah.
So could you elaborate more on the class?
Yeah. I haven't really been too involved in the class. It's under our umbrella, but it's taught by a subset of
the organization. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you go ahead.
Well, so I mean, essentially, it's sort of like the lead up to joining the organization, where you.
So it's like a feeder into the org.
Right. You learn the basics of human-centered design.
And this is all student taught.
It's all student taught. Yeah. We have things called decals at Berkeley. It's a decal. Yeah.
That's super cool. So let's say your student goes to a university that isn't close to San Francisco and isn't a design school.
Right.
But you want to do this thing, and maybe just creating this sort of organization is too large, or creating a class might be too big, or too big in general just to execute.
Yeah.
What are some things that student can do to get started within their school?
Yeah. Do you mean in terms of starting their own design organization?
Yeah. Maybe starting that culture, or doing things for themselves that in the school that could help them improve their skills.
Let's see. I think basically, so how Berkeley Innovation itself started was just 5 people were like, hey, we're all interested in design. Let's meet up once a week and talk about design.
And then it grew to this thing.
Yeah, and it kind of just evolved.
Yeah.
And it has become what it is today. The difficult thing is finding those people that are interested in design, right? It's hard for me to speak to this because I didn't start from ground zero.
Yeah.
I started with some basis and kind of
for sure.
It's evolved during my time here at Berkeley. I think reaching out over your school's Facebook groups, even hey, is anyone interested in design and wants to chat? We used to put up these events that were product design discussion,
and then people would just come and talk about design. People would just show up,
and that's where you meet people that are also interested. You really have to just kind of put yourself out there to build that community, because you can read all the articles you want, but if you don't have anyone to talk to about it,
then it's just it's
pointless, right? You don't get that practice, you don't get that report. I guess really my advice is to put yourself out there and build your own community, and put an active effort in doing it. Be it reaching out over social media and finding people, founding your own club, and tabling, at a club rush or something. Or even, just making your friends help you. They might not be. I have friends.
Or even picking up design work from the school, because everyone wants to look good and feel good.
Even getting your name out there by designing stuff for other people. I think sometimes like I'll just make my friends come to design things with me.
You just like force them to come.
I just make them come. I
Yeah.
just force them to come, and they're like, oh yeah, this is cool.
And now they want to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I literally like it's so weird. Like everyone I grew up with is doing design now. They're all doing product design. They're all doing UI UX design. It's crazy, and like all of my friends at school do like product design, UI UX, or like front end or something.
Yeah.
It's
something techie. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like once you kind of let everyone know that like, hey, I do design. I'm interested in design. Like they'll start kind of like people who are also interested kind of like start coming to you, or people around you will kind of like be caught in your.
Well, there's
way,
and they'll learn the vocabulary.
And like maybe you'll even like get people to be interested. And it like. It kind of happens in that way. You just have to like not be afraid to be like, I'm the only person I know who's interested in design. Let me just like put myself out there, like post or talk to people. And be like, hey, who else is out there? Like,
and build that
send out a
yourself.
beacon,
Yeah.
and then you can find out what other schools do, what other people do, and kind of start building that design community from the ground up.
So you've worked at very big-ish, well-respected companies. I don't know how big Quora is.
Actually only had 150 people when I was
Okay,
there
well,
last
Facebook's
summer.
about to have like 150,000.
Yeah.
So it's going to be big. Do you have any specific advice related to those companies and then just recruiting in general? Because I think that's the biggest issue that listeners and viewers would run into is like, you have your portfolio, hopefully, it's on a website, you have case studies and not just dribble mocks, and now it's like applying.
Like how to...
Everything. It could be, any... Specifically with Quora and Facebook, and then in general.
Okay, yeah. I think I did like the same thing for both companies. Basically, like I had my portfolio all done. I had my resume, redesigned for that semester.
Yeah.
And
when you say portfolio, what was in it? Was it just
so
shiny dribble shit, or was it like?
Actually, I guess this is the hard part, which is like how people get portfolio projects.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is for everyone who's in BI, like Berkeley Innovation, we have like this real world experience, these like real world portfolio projects, even if we haven't done internships yet, because we get to do these like consulting projects.
Okay.
So that's like a really great start, is this like
entry level,
this preloaded portfolio thing, right? But outside of that, like I had my freshman year like intern project that I like threw in there. But what I did...
Do you have any structure, like any sort of like way to show your process or any format you follow?
Yeah. I generally just go chronologically.
Okay.
I do like
specific to the case study. So
yeah,
when
specific to a case study, I go like abstract, and then I just go chronologically to show my process, right? But I'll do like call outs for important decisions, and like I write a lot. I basically write like an essay. And I use that. It helps, when you're interviewing, you have to talk about your project. No one's going to read your essay that you wrote, but you can read it like word for word.
Yeah, and if they do read anything, then it
they know everything.
Yeah, exactly.
You can still talk about it, right? You can have a better conversation.
Because I've met people who like notice that, oh, you missed a period here, or you missed the caps here. Because in HTML, you're just like, you don't know, right? Like it's code. But if it's there, they'll look at it. So I remember one of my managers, he told me like, oh yeah, when I looked at your portfolio, I was like, oh yeah, sketches, low fidelity, high fidelity, cool, check. All right, interview. And like it was very much like that, but some people are very specific. But it's good that you do both. I think that's important.
Yeah. Also, I use Squarespace.
Oh.
I'm a Squarespacer. Yeah. I didn't code no website. Like
Do you think that negatively affected you in any way? Because I feel like there's this bias where like if you didn't code it, then like you're inferior in a weird way.
Right. It's like if you're not like, if you want to be at a company that codes, then maybe you should code your portfolio,
Yeah.
But like,
so
for
like
example,
Quora.
For example, Quora, right?
Yeah.
But I still apply with by Squarespace, and like
nothing happens.
No one cared. It's what your portfolio is about is the work, right? It doesn't matter that my portfolio on Squarespace looks just like someone else's. They already know how to like follow the structure of my portfolio.
So
and,
technically, it's a
like
weird
myself.
advantage because they've
It's
seen it
this
before.
Weird,
Yeah.
it's like a weird like UX advantage.
Yeah.
Because you're not using something crazy. You're just using this like standard format. Because what matters is the work you did, right?
Okay.
Like your portfolio could be beautiful. It could be amazing. It could have all these crazy like Java scripts, like animation stuff, right? But like if the work in it isn't good, it's like
doesn't matter.
Right, because your portfolio, you can make it any way you want.
Yeah.
Any like.
So you have this freedom.
Crazy way, right?
But using Squarespace, I guess, constrains you, so you focus on what you're doing rather than how do you like. why isn't this loading?
And
or why
everything is
isn't this
presented
working?
simply, so you're
Yeah.
focusing more on presenting your work than you are on like, oh my god, I have this bug in my code and like I can't get this page
Yeah,
to
and
load
my interview's
right.
tomorrow and I'm
my,
screwed.
my
Yeah.
interview's tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And you have to spend all like your entire summer coding it. It's just not worth it. Like people used to be like, oh, Karen, like you have a Squarespace website, like Facebook isn't even gonna interview you. And I was like,
now you work at Facebook.
I'm here now, so
Yeah.
I think you're okay. Like,
Yeah.
it's really fine. And people are like, purists, but it's like if you don't know how to code, like don't be scared of using Squarespace. Don't be scared of using Wix. Like,
Yeah. Just get something out there.
yeah, just get your own URL, right? Like just don't use like Karen.Squarespace.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So after plugging Squarespace, so you have the portfolio side. Now, what about the more tactical stuff where like you apply and you have the Squarespace and like now you just wait, right? Like everyone's been through that like dry spell waiting thing, and then like you either get an email 6 months later or you don't, like or you get the email the next day.
Yeah. So freshman year I did the waiting thing.
Yeah.
I applied and then I was just like, okay, just gonna
like sit and wait.
hope that they look at my application and read it. And that's like I got that internship from a career fair, right? Because the waiting thing doesn't work.
Yeah.
The thing is like when you apply to a company like Facebook, you apply to a company like Quora, there's so many applicants,
people,
right?
yeah.
Everyone wants to apply to Facebook. Everyone who is like a CS major wants to work at Facebook.
At some big tech company.
Right, at some big tech company.
Especially coming from Berkeley, where like
Everyone, even people who aren't
in CS.
in CS, right? So it's like how do you stand out? Like that's really difficult to say because everyone's kind of on the same like high bar.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone who gets looked at is on the same high bar. How do you stand out from like the smart people or like even just the people who are
it's very hard,
the best people, right?
It's not like
how
high
do you
school.
Exactly. It's not like high school where like, oh, I have straight A's, like I can be valedictorian or something, right?
Yeah.
It's like how do you stand out and like
so what do you do to hustle your way up there?
Yeah, like some people will like make their portfolio crazy, but for me it's like I just I try to like make that personal connection because if you're sitting around waiting for the recruiter to contact you, you're playing like the waiting game and you're in a pool of all these people.
Yeah.
But there's only one recruiter. So if you as a single person so basically what I do is I go on LinkedIn, I find the recruiters for the companies that I just applied for.
Okay.
Like literally 20 minutes after I apply, I'll find a recruiter. I'll find a university design recruiter or a university recruiter. And
at X company.
At some company, right? And I'll literally just like guess their email. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I got your email from like a career fair or something, but usually it's just like, hey,
you should have to get in their inbox.
Yeah.
Somehow,
you don't even I don't even like acknowledge that somehow I got the
email.
Yeah,
it's just like I have
oh
this.
Yeah, I had your email. Like I'm just like,
it was just in my address book.
Yeah. Hey, I applied. I just applied online.
Yeah.
Because you want to say that you applied online so that they have somewhere to look for you.
And they don't like respond saying, did you apply online? And then you waste that
Because sometimes
reply.
they'll just be like, apply online first, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I have questions, like.
So what are those questions? Because like when you get on the phone,
it depends. It depends on the company, right? Like you don't want to ask stupid questions that are like, oh, what's your internship like, right? 'Cause you can Google that and find that out.
Yeah.
Right. You want to ask things that are like
especially
relevant.
with like Facebook's Medium publication, you can find out what the interview is.
Yeah. You don't want to like waste. You don't
their
want
time.
to. You want to waste their time. You don't want to waste your questions, right? So you want to ask things that are like specific to the company and unique, like things that'll get you answers about the unique things to that company. So I tend to ask. About like. The kinds of mentorship that I might receive. So
you put them. They're interviewing you in a weird way, because like they have to provide that mentor and they have to provide this thing.
Yeah,
Because
I kind of place it in a way where I'm like I have like a pretty high bar for where I want to work, and I'm looking for a place that I can learn, right? So like I'm gonna check you guys out while you're also checking my profile out.
Yeah, at the same time that you're interviewing they're interviewing. You're interviewing each other.
Right, and it kind of like helps you like, it sounds like I'm being kind of like a dick about this, but it helps you like position yourself as someone who is like intelligently seeking an internship.
And you're aware of what you want.
Right, you're aware of what you want, and you have like goals that you're seeking.
Yeah.
And like, that's already like, that looks good on you, and it helps them be more motivated to talk to you. So, you send these questions over, and they'll either answer them or, they'll like, I'll be like, hey, how do we get the ball rolling? They'll be like, oh, let's just schedule an initial phone screen,
and
right?
then you got the phone screen.
And literally, it works so well. Like, it worked so well. It's just like, they aren't gonna have the time to look through all of these people. And if you know that, like, if you're confident in yourself, and you kind of like do the work for them, because like they'll go into your profile and be like, okay, this person is like good enough. like they'll just interview you. It saves them so much time because you sourced
And,
yourself
to them.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
referred yourself to them.
And so, like, you'll do the phone screen. It doesn't hurt for them to schedule a phone interview with someone. If you get past that, you maybe get an on-site. Maybe you'll do, like, a video interview. That's, like, the more intense. For example, like, we did like, a product critique or something, right? And it just, like, goes on from there. But, it helps you get your foot in the door and, like, kind of, like, you get to put the ball in your court because you're taking control of the situation and reaching out, and like they'll probably reply. If they don't reply, just move on.
Yeah.
I sent like 100 emails, but like
I think we've all been there.
Yeah, you gotta network. You gotta just like reach out. If you just sit there waiting, then like
it's not gonna happen.
Nothing will ever happen. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with like reaching out. There's nothing wrong with like positioning yourself in the right way. It's all a game of strategy, and like if you put in enough effort into it, it'll pay off in the end.
Got it. So we have a couple of questions that we received from all these student design groups that we polled on Facebook and Medium and our communities at other universities. And these are the things or the concerns that they had. The first question, and this is asked to every guest. The first one is, what do you think that the industry does not quite get about the student design community, or the problems that we face at the industry, the product design industry as a whole, is just not aware of because they aren't students?
I honestly think that the industry isn't concerned at all with that. I've never been really asked about it except when they want me to talk about portfolio pieces or like what I do in the organization. But
from your experiences, just being a student trying to get into this field with like very little support from your school.
Right. So I think, like, relating to what I just said, is just, like, companies tend to not care how you got your portfolio piece or how you got your experience. They just want to know that you can, like...
Do it.
That you can think like a designer, that you can be a designer. So there's, like, that part, right? But, like, on the negative side is that, like, I've gotten emails back from trying to plan a design career fair for Berkeley Innovation. We'll get emails back that will say, like, oh, we don't allot money
to come to this university.
To come to Berkeley because you don't have a design program.
Yeah, and then everyone ends up going to, like, RISD or York Sheridan or specific design schools.
Like CMU or something, right? So there's, like, all these specific design schools they already go to. So the problem is that, like, how do we as a design community raise awareness that we exist? As, skilled designers.
That there is talent.
As experienced designers, as people who, like, probably worked harder to get where they are than the people who went to design school because we had to kind of like get this ourselves.
Yeah, you're already starting behind because you don't go to a school that supports that.
Yeah, so it's like, how do we like put it out there that like we are this organization, that we are this group of people. And like, I mean, the only way we can do it is to like invite recruiters, invite people to come and see what we're doing.
Or source yourself so then they know that like, oh, we have like 5 people from this university.
And like now
Midwest.
this summer, there's, quite a few people from Berkeley, from the Berkeley design community who are working at Facebook, for example. There's a lot of people who are, slowly gaining a lot of success in doing design after Berkeley or while at Berkeley. And there just isn't any way to like really overarchingly publicize that because the kind of design that we do, like product design, UI, UX, that kind of stuff, it's not what our school's design institute cares about. Our school's design institute is more engineering focused, right?
Yeah,
so we don't have this
like more mechanical engineering type of stuff.
Yeah, we don't have this overarching community that can like advocate for us as people who do know what we're doing, who have this education, who have the experience. So it's like, we all have to do it ourselves. We have to like fend for ourselves. And a lot of companies just like can't look past that.
Or they don't understand that there is this talent and there is this effort. It's just like, oh, like University of Berkeley is not. There's no design word in that name.
Exactly. People don't think of Berkeley and think of design. And it's like we need to change that, right? So a lot of like that's kind of what we're working towards, right? And being Berkeley Innovation, getting to reach out, that's kind of helping get the Berkeley community, like design community's name out there. But like, there's so much to...
University of California at Berkeley.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
There's so much, there's like so much out there to still change, right?
Yeah.
It's like, in the industry, every single person is like, no one in design comes from a traditional design background, but
like,
no one is sourcing the new grads. No one is sourcing these people from non-traditional design backgrounds who can't, show this work experience at like, some company for some number of years. It's that like, you know, like we just have to go out and do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so maybe if people started getting a little more creative, a little more open-minded, you know, about, because I'd say like.
So then we would have to hustle less. And
right, then we have to hustle less. You don't need this video series.
Yeah.
Like, it would just help, right? And you would then be able to find, like, there's this whole area of people in schools like, you know, like Cornell and Berkeley who are so passionate about design and so interested in design, but just like aren't cared about. Because there's just no money in going there, or you know, it's just a little more difficult. So
cool. So second question is that you have so much to manage. You have school, you have this design thing where like you're expected to essentially be a full-time designer while being a full-time student. How do you stay on top of everything? On top of all the Medium articles you have to read and all that stuff.
Yeah, okay. So I honestly don't do it in the best way.
Okay.
It's kind of like, I kind of have the perspective of like when someone who's like dropping out of school to become an actor, they're like, I can make it, I can do it, right? So it's like now that I kind of have like my foot in the door, I like know what I'm doing, how to do it. I kind of have stopped caring about school so much, and I just spend like 90% of my time doing design things and running.
And did your GPA ever affect you in getting these positions or your design work?
The only time I was ever asked for my GPA was when I applied to Google's internship. Otherwise, I don't put it on my resume. I've never been asked about it. It's never been a concern.
So it doesn't matter?
Yeah.
Unless you apply to Google.
And even, I don't, like, whatever my GPA was at the time, they
like,
didn't talk about it, they didn't ask me about it. I think they just were, like, interested to know. But, see, my thing is, like, if a company does ask you for your GPA and is explicitly, like, we need to know, that's not a place you want to work as a designer anyway.
Why is that?
What does your GPA at school have to do with your abilities as a designer? If you have a portfolio and your portfolio is good, like, what does it matter how well I did in, like, math 16A?
Yeah,
right? Like,
that's true.
Does it matter if I can do calculus, if I can solve a problem?
Well, your framer prototypes would be sick if you could do calculus.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. But,
yeah. No. I agree with that too. No, not at all.
Right. So it's like if the company is looking for your GPA, then they're not looking for you. They're not looking for the right person.
Okay.
And if you do care about that, then maybe you should work
there. Third question. So there's probably an article on some platform that says 10 things you need to do or know to get into product design.
Yeah.
Or 24 tips for UX, or like some weird thing, right?
Yeah.
How do you filter out what's good or what is noise? Because there's so much out there, and as a student trying to get into design, you almost feel like it's a burden that you have to read everything. So what do you do to stay on top of everything?
Yeah. I don't look at that clickbait shit. That's just like, I don't design that clickbait shit. I don't look at it. So it's just okay, so I use this thing called Panda. I think it's called Use Panda, or it's called Panda.
Okay.
It's a Chrome extension, and it basically is like a design Chrome extension.
It's like a Muesli type thing.
Yeah, really similar. You actually can surface Muesli on
Panda. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's like lots of different templates, lots of different websites. There's like Hacker News,
designer news.
There's designer news, right? So how I do it is I have designer news on the left side. I have a dribble feed in the middle.
Jeez.
And I have Medium on
And this
the
is
right.
just pulled up all the time.
It's my new tab.
Oh God!
My new tab screen,
so
right?
every time you hit a new tab, you have all this stuff.
Every time I hit a new tab, I get distracted, but it's fine.
Because you're learning.
It kind of keeps it on my mind, right? So sometimes I'm bored, I'll just be scrolling through the articles, and I'll see something relevant, and I'll just click on it and look at it, and I kind of just judge it for myself, because at a certain point when you read these listicles, these like 10 things you need to know to be a designer, right? Like they start saying the same thing over and over.
Yes, 100%.
What you want to look for is like stuff like Julie Zhu's articles, from Facebook.design, or just her like year of the Looking Glass stuff,
So more detailed stuff rather than like do this and then recommend an article.
You want to look for the article that takes the 10 steps in the listicle and breaks into 10 different articles, because those are the ones that are like you're gonna have to look for the information.
Yeah.
But that's the actual advice. that's like the actual stuff that someone's doing, not the like, okay, like learn how to do visual design. Like the question is how, right?
Yeah.
How did someone do that? And you'll find that in the deep dive articles, not the like listicles. Yeah. And like, I don't know, I do a lot of searching myself. Like I just look for stuff, or Designer News is just a good resource where people will like post articles, and good articles about
and then people you can read those
skills.
comments about those articles and
and you can
figure it out.
participate in the discussion, like about the article, not just about the content, which happens, you know, like on Medium. But you know, like a lot of it is just kind of judging for yourself whether it's useful, right? Because if it's not telling you how to do something or what happened, it's only telling you like this, like what the thing is, but not any other things, then like what do you do with that, right? You got to find the other things that like tell you how to do it. What's part of it? What did someone gain from doing this? Is it worth it for you?
Cool. Next question is, a lot of students starting out in design, the concept of mentorship is like an important thing because it's much easier to get into this field whenever, you know, if your school doesn't support it, you have no experience and all of that, but you have this person you can look up to. Do you have any mentors that you follow to stay inspired? And what are, instead of actual people, maybe what serves as pseudo-mentors, such as these tabs that you're talking about, or any sort of readings that keep you hungry?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of mentorship programs out there. The problem is that like a lot of these mentorship programs require you to have some level of knowledge, some level of proficiency before you can get into that. So I like participated in some of those. They're okay. You know, they were like what you'd expect. You just kind of like show them work. They give you work. You talk to them about your career. They talk to you about their career. For me, what was really actually the most helpful is like, again, I was just really lucky that my sister also decided to pursue design. So she came at it from an art background. And I came at it from, I guess, a science background. And, you know, somehow we ended up in the same place. And so, like, once there's that moment in college where I was like, oh, maybe I'm interested in design, you know, I, like, told my sister about it, and she was a UI UX designer at the time. And she kind of, like, gave me the tips to get started.
What was one of the first things she told you to do?
Read. Read everything.
Like, read listicles or, like, specific books?
There were like certain people I should follow, certain publications I should follow. There were books. The one I tell people to read, if you like know nothing about design, you're just interested in learning more, The Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman.
It's so dry.
It's
so dry.
It's, you know, it's like the design book, but I think it gives you a good intro into like kind of getting your mind thinking about that kind of stuff, right?
Conceptually.
You'll start noticing like Norman doors in real life. You know, you'll start kind of seeing these kinds of things, and it'll help you kind of build up the way you think about design. And that's just like a good intro. Like everyone says that, right? But at least, you know, in the future, it'll give you something to talk about with other designers, right?
Because everyone's read it,
Yeah, and like there's so many resources out there. The only thing that listicles are good for are like 10 books you should read.
Because then you can just get all those books.
But I know people who, you know, they were like, I know a designer who works at Google now, who took a semester off from school, who went to Berkeley, and was in Berkeley Innovation, took a semester off from school and basically did like Berkeley Innovation full time, where he just did portfolio projects for an entire semester and built his own design curriculum with like books that he found were really important for other people, books that were part of curriculums in other schools.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he built his own curriculum, just kind of forced himself to follow it for a whole semester, and it like really helped him grow as a designer. So like if you're so serious about that, then like maybe that's something to think about, is like how to get that information.
So using the curriculum as your own mentor, so all this information.
It's like building your own design education, right? Like everyone who came at design from a non-traditional background had to like cobble together somehow, figure out what classes to take at school, all that kind of stuff. But like, you know, then you're kind of letting the books be your mentor, I guess. And like I think any designer will tell you like reading is so important. Like you think like, oh, it's learning how to draw, learning how to like use Photoshop, Illustrator, Sketch, but like if you can't know how to think,
then what are you making?
Then what are you going to do, right? You can always learn how to draw. You can watch a video to learn how to use Photoshop. But if you can't wrap your head around these like frameworks, processes, problem-solving methods, like,
then what good is the thing that you made?
What can you do, right? You can't,
that's true.
You can't be a product designer.
The next question is, so you, in my opinion, are a design leader at Berkeley. And I'm sure people come up to you asking you how to get into design. So let's say a viewer or a listener did the same thing. What immediate actionable advice would you give them?
Read books.
Read books.
Read
all the things.
No, so I think it depends on what kind of designer you're trying to be, right?
So let's say it's product design.
If it's product design, then like, there's the three main things is like product thinking, UI, and UX. So visual design, and like
interaction design, product, and then product thinking.
Interaction design, usability. So there's these like three general areas that you have to get good at, right? You'll probably be better than one of those, in one of those naturally. And I'd say for anyone that doesn't come from an art background, it's probably going to be UX.
Yeah.
UI will just take practice, and product thinking is going to take
experience.
Product thinking, I think, so product thinking is the one where you need to like join in these discussions, find your design community, find these people who are willing to like talk about design all day with you and critique products with you and learn terminology, and keep up with tech with you.
Yeah. So with product thinking, find those discussions. For UI, practice it, and then UX, combine those to make that thing. Because I think the interaction kind of combines the thinking behind the visual, right? Then it's all static, and then the UX or interaction makes it live.
Sure. Yeah. That's like the way to think about like the process of how we work through these things. But I'd say if you like wanted to get better, so if you want to get better at product thinking, it's talking, right? It's talking about people who know things. I luckily had a friend who wanted to be a PM and like just knew all this stuff because he like brute force learned it himself.
Yeah.
And so we would talk about things, and he would teach me things, and that like really helped me kind of like get that vocabulary in my head. But when it came to like UI design, for example, like I had to move away from like the childish design of stuff that I did in high school, and kind of understand how to move into the world of UI design. And how I tell most people to do that is more so like going on Dribble, finding designers you admire, finding designs that you like, and just trying to copy them. Trying to see if you can figure out like how all of the individual.
But then you also learn why they did what they did.
Right.
Because then it makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. You learn why they did what they did, and then you learn how to use Sketch.
Yeah.
On your own, because
so it's like
you have to figure it all out.
Yeah, you kill two birds with one stone.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you can see like how your initial thoughts didn't match what they did, and how you can adjust, and what kind of changes will make your work better, what the differences are, and just like as you copy more and more things, copy more and more people, you'll start to build these like models yourself. Like my quick rules of thumb are always like generous spacing, consistent spacing, alignment. Fewer is better than more.
Like less is more type of thing.
Less is more, like 2 font sizes.
2 typefaces. The whole thing.
2 typefaces, 2 colors or something. If you're going to start like at the basics and start simple.
And then build up from there.
Right. But, the problem, the core thing is that you have to practice it. And then like UX, I took a class one time on like user research. There's all kinds of stuff on the internet. That's the kind of stuff that you can read it once, keep tabs on it, and always reference it again. Unless you want to be a user researcher, that's a whole separate thing. But like when it comes to like UX, just learn about the usability, keep it in mind. Learn about accessibility, learn about perception, learn about like Apple interface guidelines, Android, like material design, all these different things.
So get your foundations before you try to make what's already out there on Dribble. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and like kind of like know the stuff first, so you can like attach it to what you see, and then start like thinking through like how did they use this, why did they use this pattern, why did they use this user flow, why did they use this interaction.
And you learn that by actually executing on those things.
Right. And then you'll learn that, and then you can try to figure out yourself, try wireframing, try redesigning things, and trying to make them better. You'll probably make them worse in the beginning, but
with practice and time, it'll end up where it needs to be.
And then you can critique your own work and figure out where you went wrong, improve that, and you're getting like all of this human-centered design process in it.
And then it works out.
And ultimately you'll get to a place where maybe you can do like a 100-day challenge and do all your portfolio pieces, and hopefully get that first internship, get your foot in the door. Yeah.
Cool. So we talked about what you've done and how you got in there. So our last question is, what's next?
School.
School? Oh, you're going back to school?
Going back to school for one more year. And then I guess after that, like I'd love to come back here to Facebook. Just looking for where's my next learning opportunity? Where's the next stage in my career? going from there. I don't like to set plans. I don't like to set deadlines. I don't like to set.
You just go with the flow and then.
I'll just go with it. Go with it. I don't want to be disappointed by my goals that I didn't reach.
That's true. Set no goals, no disappointment.
Please, if you don't set any goals, you don't get any disappointment.
That sounds good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Students Who Design is written and produced by Sahil Koja and Omar Abdul Rahim. Visit our website, studentswho.design, for more information.